Hey, I'm Reagan Brewer, and for my lesson plan, I decided to go with first grade life science. So the Mississippi Standard of Teaching says for the conceptual understanding that all living things reproduce, they grow, they develop, they respond to stimuli, and they require air, food, and water. Plants are living things, and each plant part helps them survive. For L11, it says that students will demonstrate an understanding of basic needs and structures of plants. And for L111, it says that students can construct explanations using firsthand observation and then describe structures using drawings or models. So what I did was I made a worksheet that I kind of got inspiration from off of Pinterest, and I have some information scratched out on the top about the student I used. And this is like my little key, but basically it has each part of a plant with an arrow pointing to a box. And what the student will do is there are different foods that are in front of them. So for mine, I used sunflower seeds, celery, spinach, broccoli, and carrots. And I put them out in front of the student. Well, actually I did this over FaceTime, so I got someone too. And I allowed the student to put them in each of the boxes. So my sister is babysitting a little girl that I used to babysit, and she just got done with first grade, so she's 6. And I FaceTimed them while they were doing this. It worked out really well because it gave them something to do for the day that was kind of educational and structured, not just watching movies. And they both kind of had fun with it. And so I got them to FaceTime me in while we did this. And then I sent the worksheet that I made to my sister and got her to print it out so that they would have it with them. So before we got started, we talked about the parts of the plant and did she have any prior knowledge of parts of the plant? What did she think a seed was? What did she think a flower was? And I got her to draw me a picture just kind of to see what kind of background knowledge she already had. And it seemed that she had basic understanding of what kids think of as a flower. So she could draw a circle with some little leaves and petals and a stem. So after we talked about that, I would ask her where she thought each one would go before I gave her any kind of correction. So I would say, okay, which food do you think goes into the seed category? What food do you think goes into the flower category? What kind of thing goes into the stem category? And we went all the way down the list. So I allowed her to attempt it by herself first, like I said, and then asked her why she put each thing in each box. And her reasons were mainly because, it looked like it did on a flower, or a kid's concept of a flower. So she knew that the sunflower seeds went in the box that said seeds because they looked like flower seeds. And she knew that the spinach went in the box that said leaf because it looked like leaves on a flower. She had a little trouble with the one that was for flowers and for roots, and her reasoning was because broccoli doesn't look like a flower with petals that she had seen before, and a carrot didn't look like a root because when she thought of roots, she thought of what tree roots look like. So we got to go over all of that kind of thing, and I think the activity went really well, but I think it could have gone a lot better had I been there in person. I think she started getting a little distracted just with having me on the phone. I do think that her comparing the parts of the plants because of what they looked like opened up a door for us to talk about the parts of the plants in a really unique way, because she was only comparing them by visual, but I got to kind of talk to her about the functions of a plant. And we didn't go into a lot of detail because she was starting to get really distracted. But I could see where in a classroom you could progress with lessons on the functions of a plant, because you could say, a stem brings up water to the plant. So celery is a very vascular food, and you can see where it would bring up water. And that way they're not just comparing it based on what it looks like, but actually what the function of it is. I also think it's great because we got to use things that she eats and she sees every day. And this gave her more of a real world understanding than just like a conceptualized thing, which I think will stick with her longer. And also it being an activity will probably stick with her longer as well. So I have a picture of the activity as she was doing it that I got my sister to send me. And then I have a picture of the actual worksheet as well that I will add at the end of this video, hopefully, if I can figure out how to do that. But to wrap up, after we finished all this and we kind of talked about where we would go from there, to make sure that she understood the lesson, I got my sister to get not a whole new group of foods, but different kinds of foods. So instead of using sunflower seeds, I think they had like apples for a snack. So they already had the seeds out for an apple. So we were like, oh, where would these go? Where would you put these? And she knew that she would put them in the seed category. So we got to check her understanding by offering different things to put in the box as well. And that's kind of how we did the activity for that day.